Hi everyone, welcome to the ISS Erasmus Mundus MA webinar. My name is Karim Pinio. I'm Associate Professor in International Political Economy and Governance at ISS. I'm also the ISS Academic Coordinator of this particular program. Before I continue, I would like to actually introduce you to some of our Mundus MAP students. I'd like to give you the floor to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm from Slovakia.
Hi everyone, I'm Ksyusha, I'm from Russia.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle, I'm from Ecuador.
Hi, I'm Lewis, and I'm from Australia.
Okay, I guess we will all have some time to actually introduce ourselves a bit maybe later, but let me use this space to introduce the program a bit. As you can see, this is a program in public policy. Public policy itself is not a field if you see it in itself. It's actually an amalgam of fields. In the past, it has been quite associated with public administration and management, but more recently, a lot of scholars and practitioners who are working within the fields of, let's say, international relations, international political economy, broadly political science, sociology, anthropology, are also dealing with one way or the other with public policy. So actually, this kind of a diversity of public policy sits at the heart of the field of the philosophy of this particular consortium. Frankly speaking, when we got the grant from the European Union and also our national accreditations, we've been we have celebrated this diversity of public policy, and in so many ways, the division of labor within the consortium speaks to a large extent to this diversity. Some of us focus more on public administration and management. Some of us look more into IR. Some of us look more into IPE, international political economy. Some of us are actually more into the politics of decision making, for example. Obviously, as you know, there are 4 tracks within this consortium. I will not be talking today about the 2 tracks that are more associated with the CEU, which focus basically on European or global public policy. But I would like to take this space to talk about the ISS tracks, namely ISS eBay and ISS York. The logic of the ISS eBay track is very much revolves around political economy and development, while the one pertaining to ISS York focuses more on governance and development. Before I go a bit into the, if you want, the structure of the program itself, I would like to also highlight some of the important analytical identity of what characterizes also the ISS tracks. What sits at the heart of it is that we focus a lot on what we call problem-situating approach to public policy, and we do differentiate it from a problem-solving approach. What does this mean? In a few minutes, rather than actually treating the policy interventions as, let's say, an instrument or a tool or a mechanism to actually solve a particular problem in a particular field, we actually look at policy manifestations, if you want, something like mirrors. They're mirrors to what? They're mirrors to actually invite us to go more in depth about how we can actually analyze the context, or if you want, the setting where this particular problem is actually happening. By the same token, we actually start also, we start query, what is it about the conduct and the behavior of the players that are actually involved in this context? What kind of values they are actually attaching to their actions? How do they construct these values? Do they change? Do they not change? How do we analyze them? What actually, what motivates these particular actors to act in a particular way or not? In other words, their interests. But also not only their interests, but also what animates, what inspires that particular manifestation. In other words, also the ideas that they have in relation to validate particular actions. Does time matter? How can we differentiate between time, timing, and temporality? How do we go in depth in relation to space? Does space have a particular content? Does it have a particular substance? If so, how does it affect the policy setting in that sense? These are all particular queries that are central to what we actually refer to here as problem situating. So I hope what I try to say here is that in that sense, problem situating encompasses problem solving, but actually it also goes a bit beyond it, because it does not focus only on the narrow, if you want, confines of administration and management. It is also an invitation and also an engagement to deliver a genuine political economy analysis of the situation that we are involved in. So because of all of these particular reasons, actually we try to equip students more with analytical skills that will enable them to actually delve further into the political economic situation of the problem that they are dealing with. And that also has practical implications. So that means in certain cases, of course, if you wish to still solve a particular problem, being equipped with this problem situating, you would be able to delve further into the notions that you have. But it also sheds another light, if you want, in the sense that sometimes also delving further into this political economy context would allow you to see that ideas and solutions are already there. But actually, these ideas and solutions do not want to be activated by the players themselves. So it's not just about fetching solutions. Sometimes the solutions are there, but actually the concerned players also do not want to enable them or act upon them. These questions are all embedded within the confines of what we refer to here as problem situating. Having clarified this particular notion, I would like to take this space to talk very briefly about the structure of the program here at ISS. Actually, we do in the consortium first, we distinguish between three particular components for the program. There is, and students have to take all of these three. So in other words, we distinguish between course component, practical component, and research component. Let me start first with the first one, course component. Within the course component, we can also divide it into two subcategories, if you may. The first one is what we call the commonality courses. Why we call them commonality courses? Because the philosophy about it is very straightforward, and hence my introduction. If we, all the four institutes in this consortium, share the diversity of public policy, that we can do public policy in different ways, we must be able to have some common courses that speak about public policy as well. So the whole point behind this is that there are certain courses in year one, and there are certain courses in year two, that it doesn't matter whether you are in Budapest or in The Hague in year one, or whether you are in Barcelona or in New York in year two, you still have to take these particular courses. What are they? So in year one, you have to take a course that links economics with public policy. You also have to take a course about comparative public policy. The same applies to whether you are also a student at CEU. You also, no matter where you go, you also have to finish a certain number of credits pertaining to research techniques and methods. In year two, no matter where you are, whether you are at Barcelona or at York, you have to take a course on public management, and you also have to take a course on global governance. This is one side, one subcategory in the course component. The other one are the courses that are more pertaining to the ISS track itself. And there, I would like to talk about three particular courses where our philosophy of problem situating, but also the thematic focus on political economy shines through very clearly. So there is a course that delves further into issues pertaining to governance and institutions. Then these debates about the so-called best practices in governance and all the debates that are associated with it, we juxtapose it with debates in relation to capitalism and governance. And with that vein, in another course, we focus more on the processes of neoliberalizations and to what extent they intertwine with governance and institutions. We also have another course that actually we shift the focus in relation to global development in general, and there we take at the heart the processes of liberal internationalism. We debate their existence. A lot of scholars today argue to what extent they're still dominant. We also try to figure out to what extent how liberal internationalism actually is related to neoliberalism and to good governance and institutions in general. All of these are themes that actually flourish and further furbish the problem situating and the engagement with a deeper understanding of the context and the conduct in relation to the problems that students are interested in. The second particular part speaks to what we call practical component. It also has two subcategories. One is an internship. You will all be asked to actually finish an internship equivalent to 4 weeks of work within a particular organization. And it's supposed to be more practical, obviously. it has to last for 1 month. As I said, it has to be undertaking in the first year. Its credits will be counted for the second year, but it has to be, so before you move from year 1 to year 2, you have to make sure that you have undertaken this particular activity. The second practical component consists of a study trip that we normally organize either in the 3rd or the 4th week of April, excuse me. And basically there you will have the chance to visit a whole array of institutions and organizations that work in the field of public policy. You will have some mini lectures from these practitioners. You will have the chance to interact with them, Q&A, and also you will be asked to write a paper or a policy brief after that particular visit to reflect on that particular study visit. Finally, to move in relation to the third component, which is the research component, it also has 2 subcategories. I don't know why today we're going 2 by 2s, but yeah, usually we go 3 by 3s, but today we're going to go 2 by 2. And here we do distinguish between the thesis report and the thesis itself. Now, the thesis report is a document, maximum 6,000 words, that students have to finish by the end of their first year. It's actually the building block of the thesis itself. So I would like to remind everyone that this is a joint degree. So it's not like you finish the first year and then you move to the second one. The 2 years are always overlapping. They always speak to each other. So actually, the thesis report is embedded, it's integral to the whole thesis itself. In the thesis report, you actually start narrowing down your question, you start working on your theoretical framework and also on your methodology, your strategy of research, and in the hopes that, of course, you will be graded on that work once you submit towards the end of the year. The thesis is what you actually finish carrying from year 1 to year 2, is actually what you finish building on that initial project that you do. So in the thesis, you start building up on what you did, so you start dealing more with methods, you expand your literature review, and you also start, tying all the analytical links in relation to the whole body of the overall thesis. These thesis report and thesis will be supervised by one person representing the 2 institutions that you're involved in, and you will always be dealing with the same team in year 1 and year 2. So I use the word team on purpose because it becomes, in relation to the student, it becomes a team like one person, let's say one person from ISS, and the other person would be either from York or from Barcelona. So I think that might be a quick, but I hope a helpful summary of what the philosophy behind the program is and some kind of basic insights in relation to the overall structure. I would like to give the floor to some of our students who kindly accepted to come here and talk to us also in relation to the program. So I will give the floor to them.
Okay, so let me start again. I'm Misha, I'm from Slovakia, and my background before coming here is in international relations, and currently I'm doing the ISS eBay track. So I would like to talk about the reasons why I chose this program. So what I was really interested in was the international experience this program offers. Basically, you experience 2 very different academic environments, 2 different approaches, which I find very important. Also, I was interested in the economic development part of this class, and I consider that ISS that's very important, and you can be engaged in many interesting discussions on this topic. And I like to be intellectually challenged, and I believe that ISS is the right place for that because there are people from very different backgrounds, with very different positions, but with sufficient academic knowledge to basically to have a conversation about anything you are interested in. So that was the right choice, I would say. I really like the practical components of the track of the program. So I'm very excited about the study visit we are going to do very soon, and the elective components as well, because basically you can choose. Although it's, the program is in public policy, but you can still choose like what you are really specialized, what you want to be specialized in, and the elective courses, quite a big range of courses allows you to do it.
Hi everyone, once again, my name is Ksusha and originally I'm from Russia. As far as my background is concerned, I did some studies like in public management, public administration, also public law, and professionally I used to be a civil servant in Russia, and then I did some research consultancy. But then I decided, okay, something is missing actually, because like public policy is quite close field to what I have been doing before. But then I realized I want to specialize more in economic development, and especially on international level. So I thought I should look for a right program for this kind of things. And then I came across this Mundus MAPP program, which offers actually exclusive opportunity to do a joint degree in 2 different countries, in 2 different, as Misha said, environments, both academically and professionally wise. And particularly here, like first year at ISS, I guess The Hague is the right place to be, because first, I guess nothing should be said about like international environment here, because it's clear like all international organizations almost like represented here, etc. And it actually it is very conducive for your professional development. There are lots of opportunities, for example, to find internship, as far as it's obligatory component for us, but also it's a very nice place to do networking, because once you go like to another country, I mean to do your second year, you always can go back and to continue grow professionally here. And ISS offers a nice combination of theory and practice, and therefore, like we're doing this study trip this year, we're going to Berlin. So actually, we're going in 2 weeks. Yeah, and we're very excited about this, because we were looking ourselves for the organizations we are interested in. It's not something imposed on us. So basically, it's pure our initiative, and we are the ones who decided what we're interested in and what kind of organization we would like to visit. So as you can see, there is a room for our initiative in this program. And actually, this is very special, like flexibility of this program and the scope for our action, as agents within this program is actually, worth noting, because, we're building our own path, and it's cool. Not every institution actually allows you to do so. Sometimes they impose on you this framework, within you have to, like navigate somehow within boundaries. But actually here, I don't feel many boundaries. Even if you look through this coursework, it's pretty flexible. These obligatory courses, then actually very few, and then you're open to a wide variety of different other, disciplines and credits you would like to get. So this flexibility, but at the same time, the level of, academic rigor and this high standard of like intellectual performance, this is also like very, I would say, it's a very strong side of this program. Yeah. So.
Well, my name is Michelle. As I said, I'm from Ecuador. I want to talk more about my background and also my experience here in Mundus MAPP and also in ISS. Well, actually, when I was in Ecuador, I worked in the municipality for almost 5 years with the vice mayor. And actually, I was on the field of public policy in a way, in the local level. And I learned a lot. Without any background, only my background of my undergrad degree, that is political science and international relations. But when I was there, something was missing a lot, and that is the reason that I pursued my master's degrees, and I started to look for different programs that can suit with my preference and my experience, my field in my experience so far. So basically, I choose Mundus MAPP because of a variety of opportunities that I have here. First, I'm in Europe, and this is a really good opportunity to have another perspective that I can bring to my country. So that helped me a lot. I was really surprised to be chosen here in ISS and in The Hague, as Shusha said. It's really important here in Netherlands because you learn a lot about the city, about how Netherlands works. It's really special, I think. What I can say about ISS is that for me, diversity, we are here sharing classes with almost 50 different nationalities from all over the world, and that is really important because in a way you have different experience and you can share and interact in different ways. So I really enjoyed that about the ISS. And what can I say about Mundus MAPP is that it helps me a lot to realize what I was experiencing so far. For example, I have this, like for example, for me, it was really important. When I was studying cities, I didn't realize what a public policy was and what was the influence of why we choose how do you say, like specific things to do. And then with some classes, actually with Karim, I started to problem situate some things and in a way like understand different interactions that happen in my city. And then I realized like, oh my God, this is happening because of this theory or under this perspective of who was involved or how. So that helped me to situate really good and have a better understanding of what is happening. How can you understand different interaction, why a public policy can be understandable in one situation and not another? How can you study the same the same specific case by different theories? And that helped me a lot, and I really appreciate that for my future. I'm the only one of the four that I'm going to York in England, and I'm I don't know, like challenging also, but I think that I'm enjoying my time here in the Heck. I think that I want to come back when I finish my study in New York. Yes.
Hey, hi everyone. I think similar to everyone else, I'll walk through my background a little bit and what I was looking for when I chose the program, and then I guess some of the experiences I've had in the program and how I think they might be useful for those of you trying to make a decision, and then I guess a little bit about life in The Hague. My undergraduate degree was international relations, but for the sort of past 4 years or so, I was working within consulting, and I think, like everyone here has talked about, I reached a point where something just wasn't quite right. I'm someone who's always been very, very interested in politics and economics, but wasn't actually formally trained as an economist. And I think that I found that in my work, I wasn't able to ask the questions I wanted to and examine the issues that I wanted to. So I thought I wanted to do something to do with political economy, something that would let me marry my interest in economics, but with a more political tinge. But also, I guess, I was looking for a perspective that was potentially a little bit more critical or radical than I guess might be offered at a more mainstream institution. And where I stood when I decided to leave my career was I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go into a career in policy or a career in academia. And the program seemed like a great opportunity to explore both those paths at the same time to help me make a decision about what I wanted to do. And I think you can't escape from the fact that being able to study in 2 really different countries in Europe is a pretty amazing experience. Lots of Australians end up in the UK or the US, and I particularly wanted to live, I guess, in a non-Anglo part of the world. And I think living in Holland, and I'll be going to Barcelona next year, is a pretty exciting experience. So I'm learning Spanish now, and I'm loving that part of everyone else here speaks Spanish except me. So I guess being here, I think one of the things I found most fascinating is, in my undergraduate degree, I learned a lot of theory, I suppose, but here we've really gone deeper into, I guess, the foundations of theory and meta theory, and I found that quite a fascinating experience, almost like pulling back a bit of a veil behind how things are kind of constructed, and I found that really exciting. One of the things I think is really valuable is that if you come with a particular intellectual interest or a particular field or problem or something that's kind of just not quite right to you, you'll pick up, or there's the opportunity to get a set of theoretical tools and perspectives that will allow you then to explore that. And if considering a PhD, which is something I'm sort of tossing up in my mind, I think that is sort of valuable. When it comes to Holland itself, I think probably one of the most beautiful countries I've been to in summer. I'll admit the winter can be a little bit challenging if you come from a really tropical country, but I think that's not a huge deal. I think ISS is quite unique. My undergraduate university was like 60,000 people. ISS is 100 and 200 people. So it's a really close-knit community. And I think what makes that especially special is the fact that, like Mitju said, the sheer amount of nationalities and like cultures that are present makes the experience, like, at first a little bit bewildering, but then I think deeply satisfying. And I guess on a more practical note, coming to Europe, if you like travel, it's obviously very easy to cross borders and go visit cool places. I'm going to Croatia tomorrow.
I'm
There's a little
going to
bit.
Poland.
She's going to Poland tomorrow. So that the lifestyle aspect is quite good. But that's me.
Well, thank you very much for your introduction and all your experience being at ISS and why you came to ISS. Now I'll open the floor to the audience for the Q&A, question and answer. We have a few questions, mostly for the students, but there are a few for Karim, the coordinator as well. Now, there are 4 of you here, so well, you can take turns answering the question, or you can just jump in at any time. Yeah. So the first question is, did you guys, because you are here also together with the master students, do you also study together with the master students in certain classes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do, what kind of classes do you have with them? Can you explain in general? Someone.
Well, actually, we have our classes, our main classes that are mandatory for us. Some of them people can choose. It depends on them. But also we can choose. We have credits, so we can choose different ones, and it depends on you, because I think that you have to check. There's a lot of, and it depends, because you have, like, ISS is really diversity. So you have gender, you have security, you have economy, you have, depends on you, local development, and so on. So it depends on what you want, what is your interest in, and that's it. And also we have research methods preparation classes, and also it depends on what you want to pursue in your RP, basically.
RP means research paper.
Yeah.
Anyone want to add?
Yeah. Okay, you go first.
I was going to say, we also can take courses at Erasmus University. It's the main campus, which is in another city, Rotterdam, but the Netherlands is so close, it's like 10 minutes on the train. So you can take courses there, and sometimes students from there come and take courses at ISS. But I'd say maybe in the first semester, we didn't have as much contact, because 2 out of 3 of our classes were just Mundus only.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, in the second and third, when you start doing more electives, the majority of our classes are mixed with people from the MA and people from us.
Yeah, this is what creates mutually beneficial discussions, basically, within the classroom when it comes to specific courses. And you can learn from different perspectives, actually. When it comes to Mundus people, like over the semester, we're just getting to know each other's points, so more or less, like, getting not entirely homogeneous, but still quite close. But once you open to a broader community, you are being really challenged. The way of thinking has been challenged. So this is interesting.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that it's really interesting to see how the program shapes us. Because after the first semester where we were mostly, so now we are 15, so only 15 of us. And now when we started going to different classes with other students, and you see even how I would take these classes half year ago, and now how I see them after having these half year background or 4 months background with the classes with the Mundus MAPP students, it's very different. So you kind of you challenge your kind of theoretical base you get in the first semester in the, let's say, more not practical, but the classes you choose in the second semester.
And this is very organic about this program, actually. So it's logically built that as you go, you broaden up your horizon. You're not from the starting point, you're not getting overwhelmed, by neither by amount of courses, nor by people you're dealing with. So you grow and you're just being introduced as you go. So this is very nice, from many perspectives, from personal, from professional, from academic ones.
If I may say something from the program point of view as well, the way we organize it is that there are actually, factually, there are only 2 courses that are only designed for Mundus MAPP students. And these are designed in such a way in order to cement the identity of the program, but all the other courses actually are shared with the rest of the ISS. And actually, the way we designed it took into consideration that particular principle.
Okay. Earlier, you, John, no, Louis, sorry, Louis, you mentioned earlier that yeah, you mentioned earlier that you could take classes in Rotterdam. Was it for free, or did you have to pay something?
No, I haven't actually exercised that privilege, although I am considering it this semester. But my understanding, probably question, it is, yeah, it's effectively the same institution, just like, well, I'm sure there's some kind of governance structure that's complicated, but yes, you don't pay.
Okay.
No, you don't pay.
Good. Thank you very much. Yeah, you have something to say?
Yeah, sorry. Also, because our program is divided in 2 years, we have time between terms. So also you can audit if you feel.
Good point.
Yeah, you can audit some classes. If it's part of your schedule, you can do it.
Or you just go to any class for free and you listen to
What
whatever
they're saying.
teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you hear about that class is interesting, you can go there anytime.
Or
It's
go
your
to the
schedule.
trips.
Yes.
Well, very good. Thank you very much, guys. Maybe I will take one question for Karim. The study trips you mentioned earlier, is that something, can you explain a little bit more? Is it like paid, and what do the students have to do during the study trip, more in detail?
The study trip, actually, no, it's not paid. The students would have to pay for their accommodation and flights for it. We do mention that from the outset, from the beginning. Students have the right to choose where we're going. I circulate a particular typology of institutions that we would like to see. So typology normally varies between, let's say, we would like to see some formal institutions, we want to see some academic institutions, we want to see some international organizations, we want to see some think tanks, some civil society groups, or peer pressure groups, or some parliamentarians. So the specification of the typology will be shared with later. The aim is to actually, minimum is to visit 6 institutions. The maximum is 9. So usually the trip is for 3 days. So as you can see, ideally we always try to go for 3 visits per day. So you're gonna get about the payment. Sorry, yes, students have to take care of the payment for itself, but since we make decisions very early on in the year about where to go, we can a bit, save on the costs for these. And to some extent, when there is an extra surplus within the consortium, we aim to actually subsidize sometimes some of the costs. That will vary from one year to the other, depending on what we have. But in general, this is the rule. What I also wanted to say, we visit, so maximum 9 institutions. You're gonna get a lecture by these practitioners. You have like I said before, a time to engage and ask questions. The whole purpose behind it is that you have to submit an essay or a policy brief 2 weeks after we're back, and that will be worth of 3 EC credits in your overall study program. I don't know if I've answered everything in relation to this.
Yeah. Anything to add, the students?
Just going to add that I think I think the costs are a little bit variable, but I think it's going to cost us now like 250 euros each, maybe.
Yeah, so it's like feasible. Yeah, and in Europe everything is close by, so you could save a lot in transportation. And plus, it's an exciting opportunity, to travel together.
Yeah.
What I found that is nice also is that we are going to travel with CU track, so it's going to be all the Mundis in this study trip, and also we have to decide together where to go between us and them. It's something special because in some majors they already have where they are going, but for us we have to decide since the beginning. So it's really interesting, the debate also.
Yeah. And basically, I'm sorry. So you know about the fact that we are gonna pay for the trip, so we consider that. I mean, it's part of the decision, as we can choose where we go. I mean, obviously, we understand that there are some limits, so that was a part of our decision when we were deciding where to go.
Karim, you wanted to say?
Oh, just a simple thing that it is also designed in that way that the study trip would be the first time the people who are studying at The Hague and people who are studying at CEU actually meet and interact before they mingle differently in the second year. And that's also, it's the first institutional point of interaction.
Yeah.
Well, okay, thank you very much, Karim, and the rest of you. Another question for Karim, and maybe you guys can jump in as well. There's a question about activities that happens in the class. Like, is it more you speak, student listen, or is there like discussion? Maybe you can explain first, Karim, and maybe the students can jump in here.
I will start with, at least I can talk about my class. First of all, I would like to say, actually, this question would vary from one person to the other, because also it definitely speaks to different teaching styles, but also to different topics. The courses that I teach are, to a large extent, so foundational that actually the mode, and you would see that in my course outlines, the mode of interaction is participatory lectures. Mostly they are lectures. I do dedicate time for questions, but it's not like the typical kind of lecture and then a tutorial after that. We can, so sometimes we organize Q&As on the side, or some kind of, like discussion sessions on the side, but they're not necessarily integrated in relation to the lecture itself. Having said that, and again, I said two things. One is that this is always related to the teaching style, but also related to what kind of topic you're teaching. There are other courses where the style is completely participatory, and where actually it goes exactly the other way around, where the lecture is minimal, and then it's more about discussions, or I don't know, group work, or it depends on. So again, it depends on the course, and it depends also on the teacher. I don't know if you would like to add.
We could just follow up that in general, when it comes to different courses at ISS, actually this institution offers a huge range of different, opportunities how you could interact within classroom, and also even like talking about assignments. For example, different types of assignments. It's not just, like essays or something like research papers. Like various like styles were present. For example, like preparing a short video, like tackling a particular question, or doing policy brief, or going a particular organization visiting, like outdoors, sort of on-site visits. So this was actually also a huge plus of this program, I should say, because it's not only like classical way of interaction, like very, like iconic institutional approach, but very diverse.
But I would say like anyone welcomes your critical comments. I think that every professor encourages you to say what you actually think about a topic. So that's definitely not a problem. But if you are more that kind of person who, like the introvert kind of person who doesn't like to interact and to, to fight, yeah, kind of, like no one is gonna make you say something. It's really up to you. Like professors give you space. If you don't feel like interacting that day, like, you don't have to, but you are more than welcome.
Yeah, indeed, it's stimulating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Now, a question for the students. You all chose the ISS track. Why? What makes the ISS track attractive to you guys instead of the CEU? Maybe you can share your reasons. Whoever. Do you want to go?
Yeah. So for me, like I said before, I was looking for something that would allow me to straddle a bit of a barrier between like policy, but I guess political economy. When I was looking at courses, doing a pure public administration or pure public course wasn't particularly attractive to me, because it just felt too practical, if you will. It felt like something that would actually be better learned potentially like on the job. But at the same time, I did want to at least get an overview of what that world looked like. But in the ISS track gave me the chance to do that, while also, I guess, having the intellectual freedom to be able to explore a whole variety of different theoretical topics. So I think there's that reason, more an intellectual one. And then, I mean, to be frank, I wanted to live in Barcelona, not York. But I guess that's a secondary reason. But yeah, the primary one was, I think, the political economy, like that. Those words drew me because there's a lot of masters of political economy and there's a lot of masters of public policy, but I wasn't able to find any that combine the two.
For me, I think that it depends on the tracks also and what suits into reality. I'm from Ecuador, so I cannot study European studies, you know. So that is really important. I think that the background between what is happening here in ISS now and the second year in York is different from Luis. For example, I'm a Spanish language speaker, so I don't want to learn the Spanish. I want to go to York. But like going back to the ISS, I think that is really interesting to be here in Netherlands. Netherlands is always an example of what is happening in the world, why he is so developed and so on. So living here, you can feel it in a way, and I really like this. But also in classes, it's been more challenging by myself of the way that I was learning, because it was a huge time since I studied, and now I'm coming back and study and trying to be better every day. I think that really is important for me now.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Micho and Luis said, I would say like the core of this course is, as Karim mentioned before, it's like problem situating approach. And this is really precious because many people talk about problem solving, like finding a solution to every single problem which is possible. But ISS offers a particular perspective which is actually very different from like this classic perspective. And this is very precious, plus like this political economy and development, which I was personally very interested in. And also on personal note, like I was curious about the Netherlands because actually this is my 5th country I've been living in like for my life. And I was really like, you know, curious why this country is so developed. Like it's really one of the most progressive countries in the world in many aspects, like technology-wise, like spirit-wise, etc. Yeah, like there are some drawbacks, of course, weather, for example, but I'm coming from Russia, so it's not a big deal for me. Yeah, but in general, like ISS, I guess this, like choosing ISS as a component, like it's just combination of many reasons.
Yeah, I would also say that like how I chose, me personally, of course I saw the classes because that's very important. So I saw classes, I saw if I'm more interested in what the CEU offers or the ISS. Also, I think it's very important to learn a bit more about the university and about the profile of, because we are like a separate program kind of, but I mean we are in daily contact. We are part of the university, so it's very important to not only to look at the website of Mundus MA, but for me it was very important to see the ISS website as well and to see like who are the people who study here, what are the people I'm gonna meet, what are the people I'm gonna study with. If I'm more kind of like ISS person or CEU, because I mean that's your home for 1 year, and of course like I mean let's be honest, like you have to like the country where you live as well, because it can be the best university in the world, but you go to shops, you live here, you spend like 1 year of your life somewhere, so I'm not embarrassed to say that it plays a role as well.
And tulip season is coming next.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited about this.
We're good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, thank you guys. A question for Karim. What kind of background do you think would fit this major? You can explain a little bit more.
Backgrounds in political science, international relations, political economy, sociology, economics, especially the economics that it doesn't matter if you're drilled in mainstream economics, but at least if you have the tools or the willingness at least to actually be exposed also to a wide range of economic approaches, but also public administration, development studies. These are actually the ones that we refer to as relevant disciplines and relevant degrees for us.
What if you do not have the relevant background, but you have the relevant experience? Do you still get accepted for the program?
Yes, because actually our admission criteria is composite. We look for excellence in academic record. We give substantial grades for work experience. We also value your motivation, why you want to join the program. So for example, that's why I keep on talking about a ability to analyze, even if you don't have the background, how much you want to learn, how much you're open to new challenges, to new journeys. So the statement of purpose and your motivation also plays an important role in how we accept. And obviously, we look also for your credibility and references. Like, you've worked with different people before you come to us. We are a master's program. So we also care also about what other people whom you have worked with or studied under also say about you. So our admissions is quite, it's composite, it's quite comprehensive in different degrees. And yes, working experience is important. So even if you don't have the academic background that I'm talking about, working experience is important, especially when it is related to a motivation to deal with the logic of the program.
Well, thank you, Karim.
But on the other hand, just to follow up, if you don't have any working experience, professional experience before, don't be, I don't know, hesitant to apply. Just really because some of us actually some of them don't have this experience, but they still apply. But due to willingness to learn and actually do some work on the side, for example, many of us are doing internships at the same time just to catch up with work experience while studying. So it's not an impediment. So it's not a must. Yeah. So feel free to apply.
Yeah, I think it depends. So there are some students who continued right after their bachelor's. For example, I'm that case, but I did internships during my bachelor's. There are some people who studied, then they had, like Luis, he worked for several years, and then he decided to study again. So it really depends, and as Karim said, it's about your motivation.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Question to the students about your thesis. Did you thought about your thesis before you came to ISS? Before you make a decision to come to ISS, or did you make a decision while you were at ISS after your classes took place?
This question should have been me, but yeah.
Yeah, feel free to answer.
Well,
I will intervene.
yeah, you can intervene. Yeah.
But you go ahead.
Actually, this is a very topical question because we're about to submit our thesis proposal in a week. And actually, it's been an interesting journey, I should say. Prior to coming to ISIS, I had a vague idea of what I would like to work on. It was like development, a particular sector in development. But as I was going through the coursework, through the, I don't know, like chatting with Karim, with peers, like I kept shaping up my vague idea and it transformed into something completely different. So, and we'll see how it will go, but still, actually, it's work in progress, and you shouldn't, be like that much determined. I know my topic I would like to work on, and to be, close to all different opportunities, because this is what actually makes special. This program makes special is that while learning, you keep, as I said before, broadening your horizon. You keep opening up different perspectives, and even to look at the very same problem through the perspective you've never thought of. So, like, just be open. Don't be, overwhelmed. If you don't have topic in mind while coming here, at least, be on the field side, but don't be stressed about this, I should say.
Any of you want to add to your experience of your research paper?
Yeah. So when I applied, and this was something I talked about, that phone keeps going. Talked about in my motivational letter, but I was very interested in central banks, and I lived with a bunch of central bankers at home, so I just was kind of immersed in this. And I think coming here was really interesting. So I kind of had an idea of what I thought I wanted to write about, and the courses are a really good opportunity to kind of start to explore those ideas. And I think, like Susha said, I've seen that change a little bit. So now I'm more interested in inflation, which is obviously related, but a bit different. But I think what is most valuable is that if you do have a perspective, and you definitely don't need one, you discover so much content here, but if you do, what this course or what this track will provide you is will open you up to a whole variety of ways you can see the same problem. So the kind of topic that I was interested in has kind of stayed somewhat stable, but what has changed is that I've now kind of discovered 5 or 6 or 7 different ways that I could think about that. And that, I think, has been one of the most interesting parts about kind of, I guess, the development that the program offers. Like, you come in with an idea, but then you learn to think about how to think about ideas. And that is quite exciting.
You want to add something, Karim?
Well, I don't have much to say, but I mean, what I would like to say is that I imagine that everyone has an idea. I like something that Louis earlier said about you must have some kind of a problem, right? Doesn't necessarily have to keep you awake at night, but you must have some kind of a problem that haunts you a bit, right? Intellectually speaking, at least. I think it's healthy, and I think it's realistic to expect that everyone comes with this. But I also equally say, just to mirror what you've been saying as well, it is also important to be so open-minded about being exposed, right? To like you might even ditch this particular idea or to transform it, as Louis was actually talking about. So I think both things happen. I think it's healthy that you have something in mind, but it's also equally healthy to be open up to the variety of things that can happen and how you can deepen your thinking about the same problem, or perhaps morph it into something else, or maybe some of you actually, some previous students also decided to move into a complete different direction. So yeah, I hope my answer was clear. It's a combination of both.
And in any case, ISS will help you by equipping you like both thematically and analytically. So, and you will shape up eventually the idea if you want to work on it.
Well, thank you guys. This is the last question, and it's a question for all of you. What is one or two advice you would give to a prospective student who is still considering coming to ISS but aren't sure yet? What will be something that you think that could change their mind? I don't know. It's like, what is your experience that, what could you say? Let's say.
Like, I could say from my personal experience, because everyone was at the same point, I mean, of decision making, like a year ago almost. And for me, I consider basically two factors, like professional growth and personal as well. And professionally, I thought, what kind of opportunities, both like intellectual wise, like how I could grow and implement those, like this type of knowledge I could receive at ISS, then later on in my work. And also professionally, as I mentioned before, The Hague is actually offers exclusive opportunities for networking, for professional growth, for different kind of activities, which could be related to your career making later on. And plus, like personally, being exposed, like as we all mentioned before, like to these varieties of cultures, nationalities at one place, this is priceless. In addition, we like in general talking about our program, like Mundus MAPP program at ISS. This is a very exclusive program, like in many respects, but particularly there are not many here, and it creates a particular vibe, and it's sort of we're like family, and it helps a lot while going through different difficulties in the beginning, because everyone is human and we tend to get overwhelmed by new circumstances, missing home or something, but we are here next to each other, so it helps to go through different, like both studies, challenges for like while studying and personal ones. So yeah, it's nice to be nearby and around here.
Anyone else?
Like also for me, educational is really important because I think that I have the opportunity to go deeply in some, I don't know, like studies, theories, and so on, that I think that it's kind of difficult to find this perspective in my country. In the part of professional, this opened my mind a lot, because you can see how important is the academy. In my country, sometimes we forget this and we go directly for politics, and that is the reason that we make a lot of mistakes. And personal, for me, this experience helps me a lot. First, it's my first time that I'm living alone, so it was an experience to learn how to deal with my time, so on. I really found really good friends from all over the world. I didn't imagine to have a friend from Taiwan, Zimbabwe, Australia. Yeah, and that's made me, I don't know, to appreciate the opportunity to be here. So I'm grateful because of that.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I guess I would say that if you are looking for a challenge or a change, you know, moving, well, not for everyone, but for many people halfway around the world to a new city, to a different culture, leaving behind your friends, your, you know, your family, for many people, their culture, their language. I mean, there's a lot you leave behind, and then you're going to be exposed. You're going to be forced to think. It's not just you can't sit down and regurgitate something the night before. Like, it's going to challenge you mentally. I think it will challenge you personally, as Michi said, especially if you haven't lived alone before, or for all these different factors. So I think if you are looking for a change, something that's going to push you and help you grow and I guess open some doors, if you're looking to explore and challenge and grow, I think this is a good chance for that. I think it won't always be easy. That's something to keep in mind, personally, educationally, academically, but at least I can say in the last, I don't know how many months it's been now, like 7 months, like, I guess as with the spring, there is like a blooming of kind of growth and, guys, what the fuck am I saying? Yeah, awareness and, yeah, like I think appreciation, yeah, you know, like you start to see change. Like, you know, I look at me writing an essay in September and reading in September, and I look at me doing it now, and there's a gulf, and that is quite cool. So, yeah.
And to follow up briefly on practical matter, the Netherlands actually, because it's mostly like English-speaking country, and this is, you shouldn't be overwhelmed if you don't speak Dutch. If you don't have to learn Dutch. We're here for 7 months, and actually
we learned some words.
No, we're trying.
We did some effort. We took some classes which ISS actually offered for us to learn some basic Dutch, you know, language. But actually, you could survive with English, like, and Netherlands. I guess the level of knowledge of English is even higher than in UK. We were told, like, it's 99% of knowledge here. So yeah, don't worry about this.
No, I would definitely say, like, so the program is for you if you're looking for a challenge. If you want to get education, but not in a way that you go to classes. You basically spend 2 years of like going to classes without really taking anything from it, because we often even after the classes we discuss what we are learning, because it's part of our life so much. it really changes your perspective on everything. And so yeah, if you're really looking for a challenge and if you want your brain to work a lot, sometimes way too much, this is definitely a program for you. And about the Netherlands, I think it's very easy country to live in because of English, because everything works here. The uni really helps you with accommodation in a way. Like, there are dorms so you don't have this problem of looking for accommodation, which can be very troubling sometimes. And so this part is very easy, and because it's so international, there's always someone. You are not the first one going through this, so there's always someone to help you, so you can fully concentrate on your education, which is important. And because, as someone already said, the uni is so small, like, yeah, you'll always, you're never alone, kind of, if you have any problem. And so yeah, you can fully concentrate on your brain being challenged every day, every hour.
Can I add something? I was going to say, so there might be people who've already accepted or received a scholarship or know they want to do this. So you've just said several times how there's just an incredible amount of NGOs and international organizations and think tanks and government bodies in The Hague. If you already know that you're coming and you want to do this, in regards to the internship component, I would start looking at organizations now. You know, if you already have a passion for an area and know there's something you want to explore, start looking at NGOs, start getting in touch with people, because when you kind of get off the plane in September, that can actually be a really good time to start doing the internship component. So yeah, that would just be a piece of like tidbit.
Yeah. And maybe one more thing, but it's like very pragmatic way of thinking. Like, even if you come here and maybe this is not how you imagined it, there's still the second year. which is absolutely different. Of course, the program continues. Of course, I mean, you are learning, you are somehow, you get the base here, but different culture, different university, different people. Maybe that's the one you prefer. Maybe that's the one you like more. But so you have two different approaches, two in one, basically.
And also the practical method, talking about like finance stuff here. Of course, if you receive the scholarship, yeah, it's you're lucky. It's really, it helps a lot. But even if you're self-financed and you're considering, just remember that it's an investment in your like future life and your professional success, and it's really like, I'm sure it will pay off, given like the the level of performance that you're supposed to achieve while once finishing this program. So yeah, it's an investment.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It's already 2 o'clock now, so we have to end the webinar. It has been really nice to hear all your experience, and thank you, Karim, for giving a very in-depth explanation about the Mundus MAPP program. The recording will be also the session will be also recorded and will be distributed to all of you so you can have a look again for the second time. Or do you want to add something?
I was going to say, like, if people have more questions, people may have more questions after this period. Maybe Darren later can like send some emails around.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to answer questions over email or get in touch if you want to know more information, or as the day gets closer, you want some more practical advice. Like, happy to be on call.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Luis, for that. Well, with that, we will end the webinar session for the Mundus MAPP program.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.